The May 2nd, 2017 meeting of the Greater Dayton RTA Board of Trustees is hereby called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The vision of RTA is to be a premier public transportation provider that connects people and communities. Our mission is to provide great value, dependable service, and to be responsive, timely, and accountable for all that we do. Our motto, it's time to ride. Would you call a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hurd.
Here.
Ms. Hairston. Mr. Carrata.
Here.
Mr. Hoagie.
Here.
Ms. Howard.
Present.
Mr. Lumpkin.
Here.
Mr. Weckeser.
Here.
And Mr. Williamson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum, so we will be able to conduct official business. The first item of business is to approve the agenda as presented. You have it before you. Are there any changes, any corrections? In that case, we'll just approve the agenda on general consent. The next is the approval of the April 4th, 2017 board meeting minutes. They were received by each member of the board in advance for review. And at this time, I'll ask if there are any questions, concerns, or corrections. Hearing none, then the minutes stand approved as received by the board members. Next on the agenda are the committee reports. The first report comes from the Finance and Personnel Committee, Mr. John Lumpkin.
Thank you, Madam President. Finance, Personnel, and Planning Committees met for a jointly held meeting on April 25th, and as a result, the Finance and Personnel Committee is recommending 2 action items for the board's consideration. Action item number 2, Right Stop Plaza Painting Project. Purpose of this procurement is to contract with an experienced painting company to power wash and paint the underside of 11 canopies in the passenger boarding area, including the structural beams at Right Stop Plaza. This project is consistent with RTA's core values of stewardship by managing our resources carefully and maintaining excellent quality service. RTA customers are our highest priority, and a good appearance at our facilities is paramount. Mr. Chris Cole and Mr. Darren Brown provided a detailed explanation at our committee meeting, and the supporting information is included in today's board package. Chris is available to answer any questions that the board may have at this time. Hearing none, based upon the recommendations of the Finance Personnel Committee, I move to award a contract to Martin Painting and Coating for Right Stop Plaza Painting Project in the amount of $167,552. This procurement will be funded 80% through federal grants funds.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that we award a contract to Martin Painting and Coating for the stated amount for the Right Stop Plaza Painting Project. Are there any other questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action item 2, the Right Stop Plaza Painting Project has been awarded to Martin Painting and Coating.
Action item number 3, motor oil line repairs with Vita route upgrade. This procurement is a comprehensive repair project that includes the repair of 2 underground oil lines. The oil lines are not currently leaking because they have been bypassed. This is an upgrade of the Greater Dayton RTA's underground storage tank monitoring system and will provide improvements to the RTA's used oil collection and monitoring system. The major portion of this project involves maintaining, the monitoring system, repairing systems, alarms, and providing RTA staff easier access to tank data. The project is consistent with the RTA's core values of safety and integrity and stewardship, and we demonstrate our commitment to maintaining regulatory compliance and environmental safety with regard to our employees and physical plant. The successful contractor will also be responsible for concrete work, which will consist of saw cutting concrete removal and cleanup around the tank in preparation for new piping installation. When the work is completed, the contractor will be required to replace the concrete per the specifications in the scope of work. Mr. Cole and Mr. Brown provided a detailed explanation of at our committee meeting, and the supporting information is included in today's board package. Chris is available to answer any questions the board may have at this time. Hearing none, based upon the recommendation of the committee, I move to award the contract to Reliable Construction Service in the amount of $163,720 for motor oil line repairs with Vita route upgrade. This procurement will be 100% funded with operating funds.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that we award a contract to Reliable Construction Service for the motor oil line repair with Vita route upgrade. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, would you, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Action item 3, the motor oil repairs with Vita route upgrade have been awarded to Reliable Construction Service. You have a report?
Yes, I do. The RTA information technology presentation with the security program review. At the meeting, Mr. Tim Harrington presented information regarding the RTA's IT security program review. This program is set up to potentially reduce the cost of insurance, keep up with the industry trends, and track current threats to our digital information systems. Interviews with the key management staff were conducted to determine what information is important to RTA and decide what risks were detected so we can deal specifically with them. It was also discussed, and one of the areas concerned was with our vendors and what RTA would do to determine the safety of their cybersecurity. Technical scans of the environment have been performed to seek potential vulnerabilities and update information security policies are in the process of being drafted and will be presented to the committees in the very near future. Also, there's a capital program update. Mr. Rosinski provided a look back at the 2016 progress plans for 2017 capital projects. Presentation included successes and challenges for the areas of funding, updates regarding the electric system infrastructure, revenue vehicles and equipment, transit hubs, facility improvements, and equipment, technology, amenities, and other projects completed or underway. In the funding area, Mr. Rosinski indicated that the RTA has been very fortunate to raise over $12 million in non-formula funds to help with the replacement of revenue vehicles. The infrastructure rebuilding is on track, and we're learning and documenting as we rebuild the Route 4 West. RTA has been able to replace half of the diesel buses needed to meet the daily peak demands. We're ready to order 26 dual-mode buses, which will replace the 19-year-old Skoda buses. Once the manufacturer gets the FTA occurrence on the testing question, RTA will also be able to replace the entire fleet of small buses, 75 of them total, well ahead of schedule. The new camera system on the buses have not only helped with reducing crime on the bus, but area police and jurisdictions have used the video to help solve crimes. Bob also reported that the technology project is on track, facility renovations are ongoing, and equipment is being replaced as needed. Overall projects are progressing as planned, and the investments being made will serve the RTA well into the future. Mr. Rosinski also reiterated that the RTA continues to be a good community partner with local jurisdictions and updated the group on the revamped community grants process and discussed partnerships with the Job Center, Project Cure, Germantown, Huber Heights, and the City of Dayton Levitt Pavilion and others. An update on the RTA's partnership with MVRPC and the 5310 program, along with our outreach efforts to our regional transit partners, was provided. Finally, he updated the committee on efforts to work with FTA, ODOT, and the transit systems in Ohio to assist those who could make use of the federally funded assets we no longer need via asset transfers. A couple other things, the January sales tax update at the meeting. Mr. Thomas stated that the January 2017 tax receipts are $156,000 higher than January of 2016. That equates to a 5.5% increase. Financial statements for March 2017, Mr. Thomas reported that the RTA's net gain after local depreciation is $873,000 compared to a budgeted gain of $498,000. March 2017 year-to-date net loss after depreciation is $616,000 compared to the year-to-date budgeted loss of $1.063 million. The details associated with the financial statements are included in the committee package. After 3 months of operation, RTA realized a $447,000 positive variance in comparison to budget. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The planning committee had no action items, but I believe you do have a report, Ms. Howard.
I do. Thank you, Madam President. The Finance, Personnel, and Planning Committees met for a jointly held meeting on April 25th, and while we do not have any action items to bring before you, we do have important updates to provide. Mr. Brandon Polachicchio provided a summary document of recent activities in the Customer and Business Development Department. Highlights of this month's report included news regarding the Courage Award given to operator Damone Hudson by Ohio Governor John Kasich, RTA's participation in National Transit Driver Appreciation Day, and participating in transporting fans for the Dayton Hoopla event at the NCAA First Four Games. Mr. Polachicchio indicated that RTA will be sponsoring the Summer Passport Program once again. This year, Fifth Third Bank agreed to sell summer youth passes as well as the Dayton Metro Library, which will promote the PASS program alongside their Read On project. Passes will go on sale May 22nd. Mr. Polachicchio also mentioned that the Sinclair Community College Semester Pass program is on track to begin with the 2017 fall semester. Currently, Sinclair is conducting a survey with its faculty, staff, and students regarding transportation needs, including RTA service to its regional campuses. This concludes my report. Ms. Sally Brown or I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Howard at this time? Okay. The Investment Advisory Committee also does not have action items, but I believe Mr. Williamson has a report.
I do, Madam President. The Investment Advisory Committee met on April 20 for an informative financial presentation from Raymond James. And as you mentioned, we are not bringing forth any action items today, but I do have some informational items I would like to share. Mr. Fink began our presentation by suggesting that the general theme associated with this quarter's discussion is global uncertainty, especially as it pertains to geopolitics. Fundamentally, the economy is in relatively good shape with no indication of a recession on the horizon. Gross domestic product, while growing moderately, is forecast by both private economic analysts and the Federal Reserve to be approximately 2% for 2017 and 2018. Inflation, as measured by personal consumption expenditures, was 1.5% for 2016. PCE did rise above the Fed's target of 2% during the quarter, but has since moderated below that level and is forecast to remain within the Fed's target range in the coming months. Unemployment ended 2016 at 4.8% and has gradually trended downward with some improvement in wages. Other economic statistics were cited, including the continued gradual improvement in housing. Given the improvements in the economy, it appears that the Fed will stay on track with its stated goal of 3 Fed funds rate increases for 2017. The previous rate increase in March, along with investors returning to the safety of treasuries, has led to a flattening of the yield curve. At the meeting, Mr. Schierlow referenced the Atlanta Federal Reserve charts and commentary regarding the low gross domestic product growth rates and how, with such anemic growth rates, it will be difficult to justify significant tightening. This would imply a relatively flat yield curve moving forward. Mr. Lumpkin asked about ramifications of repatriation of corporate tax dollars from overseas, assuming the Trump administration is successful in implementing tax reforms. Mr. Schirlo responded that if repatriation were to actually occur, then it would be perceived by the equity markets as a positive event, and the equity markets might rally further, reducing the interest in fixed income securities, resulting in a decline in bond valuations. Given the rather dramatic shift in demographics, meaning an aging population, it may not be the case that large sums of repatriated dollars would be spent on major capital expenditures domestically. Corporate America may have no great incentive to increase productive output, and the threat to bond prices is negligible. I asked if the threat on the Korean peninsula and whether it was real, and if so, what would the consequences be to RTA's portfolio? Mr. Schirlo answered, yes, the threat is real, and if conflict breaks out there in earnest, the flight to quality trade should lift bond prices, a plus for the RTA portfolio. Regarding the political landscape, the Trump administration campaigned on a platform of strong economic growth, tax, health care, and foreign policy reform, as well as infrastructure spending. The administration's first attempt at health care reform was unsuccessful, raising questions about whether or not other policy initiatives would be achievable. The conflict in Syria, as well as tension related to North Korea, Russia, and Iran, added to the uncertainty. The first round of elections in France is another potential shock to the market, as we have now gone from 4 candidates at the time of our investment advisory meeting to now 2 candidates, including the populist far-right and far-left candidates. With regards to RTA's portfolio summary, Mr. Fink referenced the fixed income portfolio analysis and mentioned that the face value of the portfolio was down to $30,429,000 from over $35 million at the last meeting in October 2016. Several positions were liquidated to raise cash for the purchase of new buses. Based on the value of the current portfolio, income for the ensuing year is estimated to be approximately $397,000. The yield to worst case for the portfolio now stands at 1.31% and the yield to maturity at 1.37%. Duration and effective maturity are both approximately 2.5 years. Stanforth gave a fuel hedging update and reported that the first quarter 2017 fuel hedging realized losses totaled $74,000. At March 31, 2017, unrealized losses equal $316,000. Ms. Stanforth also stated in other business that Star Ohio is currently earning 1% annually on investments. The Greater Dayton RTA utilizes this savings vehicle for any excess cash on hand. I then requested that for the upcoming July 2017 meeting, that the agenda include an item for sales tax. Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Well, let's move on to the CEO's report. Mark?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few informational items for the board today and the public that's here. First of all, we are impacted by the United Healthcare Premier issue with our employees. We're staying tuned, and I know some good mediators, if that could be of assistance. We're obviously hopeful that something can be worked out eventually, but in the interim, we're going to work really hard to just support our employees that are affected and their questions. And I'm sure, you know, the newspaper's obviously watching that closely, so we'll all know what's happening there. Some good news. We learned over the weekend that Congress has cut a deal for an omnibus bill basically to fund the government through the end of fiscal 17, which is September 30th. Is that right, Bob? Is it still September 30th? And I've been double checking all day with some folks we work with in D.C. That lobby for the bus coalition, and they did say that even the formula programs are fully funded at the fiscal 17 level. So some of what you heard earlier about us having to spend a lot of local money to pay for buses. Hopefully on Saturday, Bob will be able to draw all that down. That's a joke because the new federal system's a little slower, but it should mean that assuming that the bill gets signed, and I say assuming because the bill also reverses all of the president's proposed cuts to the DOT, including new starts, small starts, BRT, and rail projects, all of it. So they're all funded in this program, and including full funding of the bus and bus facilities program. So we're excited about it. It's supposed to be passed in the House and Senate by the end of the week. Hopefully the president will sign it, and then we can get caught up on our cash flow issues with the feds. So that's good news. More good news. Next week, this region is hosting the International Trails Symposium, and Laura's probably going to need some sleep before it starts because Bike Miami Valley will have a huge role. We're both a sponsor and a supporter in any way we can. People from all over the world will be here next week for this event. Pretty cool. It's probably one of those things that comes every 50 years, so we should enjoy it. We're pretty excited about that. We've got some special things planned in conjunction with Bike Miami Valley, and the folks in our bike shop have been doing an outstanding job supporting that. And finally, you notice there's some faces missing at the table over there. Well, one floor below us, we are hosting what's called the Midwest Transit Leadership Exchange. And this is something that actually has been led by our own Gene Rhodes. It came up in our state association a few years ago about starting the idea of an exchange of employees, basically, amongst systems so we can further their education, see how people do things in other communities. We've got people as far away as Buffalo, New York, and Pittsburgh here, as well as a lot of Ohio representation. And I think the keynote speaker is speaking right now. So we're hosting them through tomorrow. But it's another good project, and it's I think it's a regurgitation of a great old idea. We did this when I was young. We would take supervisors and first-level managers and send them off for almost a week at a different transit system to learn some things and hopefully share some knowledge. I think we all gain from it. And Cleveland hosted it last year. We're hosting this year. It's a good project that we'll continue to stay involved with. With that, unless there are questions, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mark, the newspapers have been replete with the so-called circulator. Is there any other information you'd like to share with us that was not reported in the papers?
Yes. The story was relatively accurate. I think we're really close. Obviously, the issue of the financial support is yet to be ironed out, but I'm fairly confident that's going to happen pretty quickly. We've narrowed it down to just a few options, and we're actually pretty strong on one option routing-wise. It requires some things that have to change traffic-wise within the city. There are little things that have to be done, but we're pretty excited about it, and I'm still very hopeful that we could see a launch with our fall schedule change. So we'll see. But again, the big issue obviously for us is the financial commitment has to come through, and we still have some work to do on branding and a few other things like that. But nothing. I'd say the biggest issue to be overcome is simply the financial issue, and I'm pretty confident with the city's help that's going to be done. And as soon as that can be done, hopefully we'll have a final package to present to the board so we can move forward.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
We were involved in the river project, and that's getting a ribbon cutting on Friday, I believe. Is that right?
Absolutely is, and the kayak racks for the buses are almost, no, there's a, when we got involved in this, someone sent me a picture with a kayak on, because they know I'm a kayaker, on the front of a bus and suggested we would be getting these. Yes, it will be represented at the event, and everybody's welcome to be there. I think it starts at 4:30 on Friday afternoon down at Riverscape. Doesn't sound like they took my idea of Mike Urban cutting the ribbon in a kayak, going through the water feature, but wouldn't it have been great? But yes, we'll be represented, and it's been an exciting project. Another exciting project, I think, in the community for us to be involved in. We were involved in the access issues related to both of the river run, the drops, as they're called.
Thanks for the update.
Do we have any old business? Okay, none that I am aware of. Do we have any new business? Because there's none that I'm aware of. Okay, at this point, we are at the public comment section. Here's the podium from which you will address us. If you're not able to come to the podium, just let us know, and is someone prepared to take a mic? Okay. You may give us your name, your address, and the topic that you wish to address. And then at that time, you will have 3 minutes. We have our stoplight. When you have 30 seconds left, it'll go to yellow. And when it goes to red, we'd appreciate it if you would end your comments and be seated. So at this time, I have 2 requests that were received before the meeting started. And I'll start with Ruby Thompson.
Good to see you again. I made it through that strike.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm glad things went well. And I was concerned because I've had hearsay that they're wanting to get out charter buses and give people free rides and eliminate the RTA, and it was all on the news, and I don't find that likely. I think they've made some big improvements, but one of the neighbors brought it to my attention, and I'm concerned about the crime issue with the bus services, and I'm involved with the NAACP and working out of my church. I just obtained my diploma in substance abuse counseling to get with some of the youth, and get involved, and I think it's a thing that, that needs to be addressed in the community to try to help keep down some of the crime here, in the city and also with RTA.
Okay.
Whatever I can do to get involved, I'm willing.
That if you would let people know
Yeah.
that if they have a specific crime issue, that they need to notify RTA and give us information so that we can address it
That's
immediately when it happens.
Okay then.
On that part.
All righty.
And on your other part about, I'm not aware of
Any charter buses coming out,
in and taking over for
Uh-huh.
RTA.
But if I want to find out something, I come directly
Right.
to you.
So I'm going to pass your comments on, well, the crime issue
Okay.
but for about the charter buses, I will pass that on to Mr. Donahue.
I can clarify that. It's actually literally the opposite. We are providing some of our old buses that are coming out of service to TARTA in Toledo to help them. They're short of buses right now, so some of our older New Flyer units, instead of being auctioned off, we're transitioning them over to Toledo. And so that may be where some of the confusion is out there on the street.
So we're providing buses to a company.
And
Okay.
Right, and I might also say that, inside all our buses, we have I'm waiting for Mr. Napier to stand up, our See Something, Say Something campaign, and it gives advice on, what to do when you're concerned or you see something, anything from a package left alone to an act.
Because we have the same issues, but if no one tells us,
That's right.
we can't address it.
Yeah,
So,
it's good to get involved.
thank you. And we need your address.
Yes, I'm at 729 West Grand Avenue on Salem in Grand,
Okay,
apartment 142.
thank you.
You're welcome.
The next request to address the board is Mary Miller. Good afternoon, board members and everyone here. Same situation. Getting in is really hard when there's no one there at 20 minutes to 3 to come up. So luckily I was able to find somebody over in the other side that was able to allow me up. She used her pass and I pressed the button so we were able to get me up so I could speak. The question that I still have is about the project mobility, I guess, shower chairs, safety seats. Are we not trying to find something that can fit into the grid so that they don't rock when you're being lifted, or is that not a possibility? It's a safety issue.
We
I think-
addressed that quite some time ago. The board actually looked, and we did see that they are, on the internet, they are called, that is what they're called. But, yeah, geriatric shower seats. But we addressed it, we reviewed it, and we determined with proper training, it is the safest way that we can address having individuals who are not steady on their feet
Right, but as
to
you
load
know,
them on the board, to
as you
load them
know,
on the
with the
bus.
shower chairs, they have a rubber-based bottom, and that rubber base is not going to fit evenly on the grids. And my simple thought is maybe you can fix those with a different type of boot so that it does conform to fitting on the grid of the lift, because that's what makes it unsteady.
Okay, I'll pass that on to Mark for consideration, and he'll have his team look at it. But at this time, the board is satisfied with the way we've approached the unsteadiness of individuals boarding the bus.
And that would be,
The geriatric shower
Showers.
chairs and strapping them in.
okay, do we have any count on people that don't want to ride those, or do we still have an option?
If you are steady enough that you wish to go up the steps, that is okay, and I think we will allow you to put your wheelchair on there if your wheelchair will lock.
If you're talking about the walkers that have a seat, we use those as well,
Right.
as long as they have brakes and they'll lock.
Right.
So they will allow the walkers?
Absolutely.
instead of the
If they
shower
have
chairs?
brakes in a seat, if, because all walkers don't have a place where the person can sit.
Right.
So if they're standing, that's not steady.
If you're in the shower chair, it's still not steady. But
But
Well, again-
I'll reserve that.
But they're seated.
That's right.
Okay.
I'll reserve that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for the record, since we've changed our practice on this issue, we've had no incidents on these lifts. So the statistics are clear that from a liability perspective, we've made a difference. Whether it's comfortable for everyone, we'll do our best to do what we can, but our end game was not to have any more incidents involving passenger falls from a lift, and we've accomplished that so far.
Safety first. That was it for the request for public comment. Now I'm down to board member comments and announcements. Let's start down on this end. You have any comments or announcements? Okay.
I don't have anything either, thank you.
I don't either.
I'll just say, after a short hiatus of a couple of months, it's good to be back and see everybody. Greeted Mrs. Smithers and Mrs. Miller before, so good to be back.
Madam President, could I just say hi to one of my favorite people? One of our retirees is here today, Brenda McReynolds Hardy. For all the young people in the room that have never worked with Brenda, shame on you. You should spend some quality time with her. She's still an avid customer of our system. Spent 30 years here, and they were great years and great service to RTA. It's so good to see Brenda.
Madam President,
Yes.
I do have one thing to say. Right before I came here, I checked my Facebook page, and there was Mama Nozipo. And I have no idea where she was, but she was laid out on her back with her RTA pass around her neck, and the only thing she said was happy. So the little things make a difference.
Oh, yeah, because you worried me there when you said she was laid out.
No, she was taking a selfie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was taking a selfie of her lifetime pass.
Next on the agenda, we have an executive session if necessary. Is there a need for an executive session?
I hope not.
Okay. If there is no need for an executive session, I won't request one. What I will request, though, if there is nothing else to come before the board for the good of the order, I will request a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. We adjourn the meeting. All those, any questions or discussion? No. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.